Welcome to Women with Drive, a show by the Deakin Melbourne Boomers, talking all things Aussie women's hoops. Hosted by Boomers' own Lou Brown. Women with Drive.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Women with Drive, presented by the Deakin Melbourne Boomers. I'm your host, Lou Brown, and tonight I have some really exciting guests and content for the show. Two very impressive women who have achieved a lot within their respected fields, and both with stories of overcoming adversity to reach higher goals. Joining me in the studio a little later, we have Olympian and Boomers combo guard Tess Madgen, where we'll get to talk about her experience at the Olympics, what she's been doing with the Boomers Academy, and what she's excited for this season. But first, I recently got to interview Holly Rowe. Holly is an icon within the world of sports broadcasting, working with ESPN and ABC for over 25 years. Holly is a mother and a cancer survivor. She has an incredible story of her battle with a rare and aggressive form of skin cancer, but continued to work all throughout her treatment. Holly has a world of wisdom about the WNBA and so much more. I got to pick her brain a bit and learned more about her story. Here's what she had to say.
Women with Drive.
People in Australia, this is something you would need to be very aware of. I was that dumb young girl that would go tan. I would go to tanning beds. You just wanted to be tan. And I got just a spot on my chest, and I went in to see if they could take it off. And they did a biopsy, and it ended up being this very rare form of cancer. And at the time, I thought, oh, it's no big deal. They'll just cut it off. I'll be fine. And I was very cocky about it. And it ended up spreading to my lymph nodes in my right armpit. I had a big tumor there. They had to totally reconstruct my whole upper body, take that out. Then it spread into my lungs. And then I was like in the fight for my life. And so I didn't really know that melanoma could spread into your organs. It can go to your brain. It can go all through your body. And I think that those of us who love the sun, and I know Aussies are in that category, we're just naive. I had no idea that skin cancer could kill me and that could be so deadly. So it's been a really tough challenge. I was in chemotherapy every 21 days for 3 years, and that's really hard. My body's just now recovering, but I'm doing well now. My tumors are disappearing through this great immunotherapy that we have. But I guess my message is just please cover up in the sun. I had no idea that it could kill us, but it's deadlier now than it's ever been. And for young women, even young men that might be listening to this, one time in a tanning bed can give you a 50% chance to get melanoma. And so it's just, I keep seeing all my young WNBA players out tanning and at the pool. And I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I could just tell you what's going to happen in 20 years to you, so be careful, everybody.
Yeah, I think it's huge advice, but I'm just so glad to hear that you're doing so well now and you're healthy, and hopefully something that is behind you. But I agree, it is very prevalent here in Australia in skin cancer, and my mum, she's had a melanoma as well. Ooh. So it's kind of been through my family a little bit, so I know a little bit about it, but your story was very huge, and I think it's hopefully a bit of a reality check for some people as well. Just as you said, can be very naive, and I think I have been myself, so definitely I'm out there sunscreening now. Yeah, because of people like yourself and my mom.
You can have a genetic component to that too if your mom's had it, so you've got to be very careful.
Yes.
And then the other thing I learned through all this is like all of us have something that we're like, I wonder if I should. So my other new thing is when in doubt, check it out. Like go get it checked, because the best thing is they just say, it's nothing, or we'll just take that off. That's, the best case scenario. So don't procrastinate. And you guys have been in lockdown, so I'm worried that people procrastinated, getting stuff checked. So please go and get stuff checked.
No, I love that. When in doubt, check it out. That is a great motto. Great motto. A part of what you talked about publicly is how you were still working and broadcasting games and use that as a very powerful medicine. Can you tell me more about what drove you to keep working through your treatment and how that helped you, but also how was that time for you?
I look back on that time and I'm like, man, what a nut job. Like, why did I just keep thinking I had to work all the time? Like most people get cancer or get sick and they stay home or whatever, but for me, I felt like I had to have little goals of, okay, I've got to get well enough so I can go cover this game. I've got to get well enough to be back in time for college football season. So it kind of was a way for me to set little goals for myself, for survival. Like I just had to keep going and moving forward so that I didn't just cave in, you know? I think sometimes you can cave in mentally and emotionally when you have a tough diagnosis. So for me, it was a survival mechanism, but also I had this really intriguing moment where one day at a visit with my doctor, he said to me, you need to start thinking about how you're spending your time. And that was his very pleasant way of saying, we're not sure how this is going. We're not sure if you're going to make it, you know, because tumors in your lungs that are inoperable are deadly. And, you know, that just like hit me in the face. And I was like, oh, wow, I don't think I ever thought I was going to die from this. You know, like it just shocked me. And so I went home that day and I sat on my couch and I just closed my eyes. And I just tried to imagine, like, what would I want my life to be like if I didn't have much time left to live? Like, what was my bucket list or what was my passion or whatever? And what I came to realize is I'm living my life exactly like that. I was already doing the things. Now, maybe I would do more fun things or more silly bucket list types of things. And I did. So like I had always wanted to move and live in New York City. And so I went and did that. I wanted to learn to play the piano again. So I played the piano and I got in a little band, a girl band, and we had a little concert. And, you know, so I did some bucket list things like that. But my true passion was my son, hanging out with my family and going to games. And that's what I did to keep going and how I spent my time when I wasn't sure how much time I would have left. And, you know, thank God this immunotherapy is shrinking these tumors. And, you know, I'm just really blessed to have more time. But it's a sobering thing of like, how are you spending your time in life? Make sure it's what you love doing passionately. And then I also learned, like, every single day, you should have some joyful moment where you are like stopping and like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And so I started keeping a little joy journal of what was bringing me joy every day. And that kind of changed my outlook as well.
What an impressive woman and an inspirational story at that. But talking about impressive women, right after the break, I'll be joined by Boomers guard Tess Madgen.
Women with Drive.
The goals I would like to achieve before I retire are winning a WNBL championship. Growing up, I wanted to play in the WNBL, play in Europe, play in the WNBA, go to a World Cup and go to an Olympics. So I've done all of those, and now as a team, I'd just really love to win a WNBL championship.
Madgen looks to get open. McGregor to tie it up. Can't make it count. George back out to Garrick. She misses as well. Townsville hang on. They're off to the grand final. In the most dramatic of...
Yeah, so Guy's probably had the biggest impact on my game as a coach. Being reunited with him last season, I just, you know, realised why I love being coached by him so much. He leaves no stone unturned in getting his individual players ready, but then the team ready to compete game in, game out. And I always feel so confident and capable when he's my coach. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. The club and Guy have put together a great team this season, a very exciting team, you know, full of skill, talent, and I think the right characteristics that you need to have a winning team. I'm so excited to get to work with this team that they have put together to hopefully create something special, not only for Guy, but for the club as a whole. We've won one championship, I think, in 30-something years, so it'll be amazing for everybody involved.
And what a great piece on Tess Madgen. Learn a little bit about her and her story. And speaking of the wonderful Tess Madgen, thank you so much for joining me today, Tess.
Thanks so much for having me, Lou.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm super excited to have you here. Just while the piece is fresh in our mind, in that video you talked a little bit about how head coach Guy Malloy had such an impact on your game. Can you tell me a little bit about how he's impacted your game and the best part about playing for him?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think you know, I've been working with Guy in and out for about 10 years now, and he's just really, I guess, developed my skill. I was always a very determined, passionate basketball player, but he was able to hone that in a little bit and, make me as skillful as I could possibly be. And he has a huge part of that is how I play today. I'm also a player that's continually trying to improve my game, add new things to it, and being reunited with Guy last year for the WNBL season, I think he taught me a lot, and able to refine some skills that really helped me in the season, and then to eventually make the Olympic team.
Yeah, amazing. Actually, he's had such an impact on your game. To then, obviously, in that piece, you also talked about the goals that you've been able to achieve and continue to achieve. And you've got one left, which is a WNBL championship. What do you think it's going to take this season to get to the championship series and then get over that line?
Yeah, quickly, while we're just talking about Guy, I shouldn't, 10, or I can't remember, it feels like 10 years ago. I don't think it was quite that long ago. We sat down together in a cafe and he wrote down a list of goals for me that he thought I could achieve in my career. And that definitely, helped me believe that I could do that. And one of those was to make the Olympics in Tokyo. So I shouldn't not say that, because his belief in me definitely has had a huge impact on my career. Fast forwarding to WNBL 2020, 2021, I think, the club and the coaching staff have put together an amazing team with, a lot of returning players, but then some really crucial pieces off the bench. And Lindsay Allen's returning, and Tiffany Mitchell, who look to be very exciting. I've only ever had to try and guard Lindsay Allen, and I say try to have to because she's pretty hard to guard. So I'm super excited to be able to play with her. And then selfishly, go back to my preferred position of a shooting guard. So super stoked on an individual level as well as a team level. I think we have all the pieces necessary. There's no secret about it. We're going for the championship, and as long as we can all get on the same page, and Guy, Flinny and Larissa are the perfect coaches to do that, I think we have a really good shot at going the whole way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think coming in as a rookie for this season as well, to be able to play and train with 3 Olympians and then 2 WNBA players. I'm just super excited to not only play with you guys, but learn from you all and continue to grow my game from just watching and playing with you guys every day. So
you're a very experienced rookie, Lou. I think you're selling yourself a bit short.
Rookie, but I'm on the upper end of the rookie age list. That's for sure. But moving on, let's talk Olympics. To now come home, it's now bit behind you. What does it mean to be able to call yourself an Olympian?
Yeah, good question. And I mean, getting thrown straight into hotel quarantine after the Olympics gave me a lot of time to reflect on the whole experience. And I think the most rewarding part for me was actually making the team, and then the work that I did before the Olympics to be prepared as possible, so that when I got there I was full of confidence, ready to do whatever the coach asked and what was needed by the team. So that was definitely the most rewarding part for me, which might be a bit weird to hear for some people. And then when I got there, I was relaxed and I was ready, and I could just try and enjoy the experience as best as possible.
No, and you speak about hotel quarantine just quickly. I know you mentioned you spent your 30th birthday in hotel quarantine. How did you celebrate that?
Well, I wish it was my 30th. It was my 31st. So I'm well into.
No, definitely well into.
Last year I spent my 30th birthday in lockdown in Melbourne.
Okay.
So I was used
not much
to
better.
Yeah. But I always say when you're in hotel quarantine or lockdown, people have to make an extra effort. So my whole room was full of flowers. I was on FaceTime the whole day. So yeah, those people close to me still tried to make me feel special, and it actually kind of gave me something to look forward to in hotel quarantine.
Yeah, feeling the love a little bit, for sure. But you're at the Olympics, and can you just give us and the viewers a little bit an idea of what the Olympic Village was like, and then also the camaraderie amongst the entire Australia Olympic team?
Yeah, great question. The Australian Olympic Committee did an amazing job. Where we were situated in the village, they had a barista cart for us. They just decorated our building beautifully.
Essential.
Yeah, definitely. They decorated our building beautifully, and it was definitely, I think, the best team building in the village. And then because of COVID, obviously, we couldn't really mingle that much with other countries or other athletes. So they had a big area downstairs where we could watch big screen TVs of our fellow Australians competing, and like hammock chairs, table tennis. So yeah, the Australian Olympic Committee did amazing with that. And then, I mean, going into the dining hall, although it was all segregated with plastic sheets and stuff, still, you know, seeing the Italian 100 metre sprinter that won the gold medal the night before, and Luka Doncic and Novak Djokovic and stuff like that, it was super surreal. But the only person I really wanted to meet in the village was Dean Boxall, the Ariane Titmus's coach, after he went viral with that video. He just looked like such a vibe, and I was fortunate enough to meet him, and he was the loveliest guy. So I was pretty stoked about that.
Yeah. You said, can we get some of those vibes on our bench
seriously.
as well? Yeah, no, I mean, that's the pinnacle of sport. I can't even begin to imagine some of the athletes you would have had the opportunity to just be in the presence with. So super, super special. But I also saw a bit, I think, on social media. Do you guys have a shopping mall or something like that? Yeah, we did. It was so hot in Tokyo, and because we were playing a lot or recovering or training, I mean, that's at the forefront of your mind while you're there. It's amazing to be surrounded by all these people, but you have to remember you're one of them as well. You know, you're in their field. So the number one goal was to be prepared for practice and to play as best as I could, and that was always at the forefront of my mind. So it was business as usual, I suppose. But yes, I did make the trip to the outdoor mall. There was an ASICS shop there, and you could get a free pair of sneakers. Yeah. And Tessa Levy loves her shoes, loves her ASICS. And she went down and was like, oh, look at these shoes, I got them for free, and kind of convinced us all to go down and have a look. But that's did you get a pair?
Yeah, I did. Good. Yeah, they're on the boat on the way home, getting shipped back, because we had so much stuff with going to America first that a lot of us had to ship a bag back. So hopefully I'll get them soon. I'll rock them at training.
No, please do. But also now, just moving on a little bit, now the Boomers are launching a really cool product at the end of this year, I believe. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and then what your role is for the Boomers Academy?
Yeah, so we're launching an online, I guess, training plan, or individual skill development, and it just focuses on the main parts of basketball, so dribbling, shooting, and defense, footwork. It's super exciting. I think it's like really one of the first of its kind where athletes can go on there. You have to kind of pass a level to go to the next level, and so the skills progressively get harder. And yeah, I think it was an idea of Christy, our general manager, and Tony, our chairperson. So it's super cool. I'm very lucky to be involved with it, and have had such a big part to do with it. I'm very passionate about women and girls in sport and trying to keep them engaged in healthy habits. I'm starting to be a PE teacher as well, so it just aligned perfectly with me. And I'm fortunate enough to be the head coach of the Boomers Academy, which is something I really love doing. I love building those connections with young girls, but also young boys as well.
No, and I think it'd be it gives such great reach to Australia, and then hopefully internationally as well. But I think, as you said, it's so important to have a female face for this platform, and to be able to find that little niche in these instructional videos, because just learning a little bit about it before coming in here, I was like, throughout Zoom workouts, every time I've looked online and I've Googled trying to get new ideas, learn something new for these Zoom workouts, I've always seen men. Yeah. It's always, every video I've watched has been a male, but and I'm like, that's super cool that the Boomers would be able to find a niche and then use yourself as the face. I mean, a lot of lucky viewers out there.
Oh, thanks, Lou.
Yeah. To be led and instructed by yourself.
The online platform is amazing, but also I do love trying to build those interpersonal relationships in person. And for those lucky enough to be in Melbourne and have the opportunity to come to the camps or to the weekly sessions, and to be able to be coached by elite female athletes. It's not only myself. I'm sure you've been to some of the holiday camps, and and our fellow teammates. It really is a special experience, and I think we do truly care about the young players in Melbourne, because basketball is the best sport in the world, so we want as many people playing it as possible.
Exactly.
We dribble the ball, 1 or 2 dribbles to the 3-point line, cross it over into the right hand, and then take 1 or 2 more dribbles with our right hand. Remember, with our right stride stop, the footwork is reversed. So this time, we will first step with our left foot.
Now, just finally, outside of winning a championship this year, do you have any personal goals?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I think as I've gotten older, I wanted to make an All-Star 5. Ultimately, I'd love to win an MVP, but I think as I'm getting older, it's becoming less about my individual goals or my individual performances. As we saw in the video, I've kind of ticked off all those individual things I've wanted to do. So I'm just looking for pre-season to start and to, talk with Guy and the rest of the coaches and establish my role on the team as best as possible. I love a good assist. I love playing in the pick and roll. So that will probably be one of the stats that I would like to be doing well in. And then whatever else happens can happen. I'm also, looking forward to having a bit more of a defensive challenge, like hone that in a bit more. Last season, I was pretty focused on offense. I would like to say it's what the team needed, but that does sometimes take away from my defence. So I'd like to be a bit more reliable at stopping other teams' best players in games, and if I can, take as much pride in that as my offence and looking after the ball and stuff, I think I'll be a very happy person, and I hope it contributes to team success.
No, I definitely think so. I mean, I've just trained with you a couple times now, I think twice, and just within those trainings, you've come in and taken it to a whole nother level, and I can just see it's either we're going to match what you're doing or get left behind, pretty much, and I love it, absolutely love it. But thank you so much for joining me today, Taz. It's been an absolute pleasure, and get to learn a little bit about the Olympics and a bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and we will see you right after the break. As we continue to celebrate the past 38 years with Boomer Heritage Stories, tonight we have Club Games record holder Linda Brandt.
I guess at the time you just go along and do it. That's what I like to do, so I didn't really take notice of those things, and then I was rapt to get to 250 games. I pride myself in being a loyal person, so it was a great achievement. I was playing juniors at Diamond Valley, and I think I'd even made it into their senior team at that stage. I was 16, and I had a call from the president of Bulleen at the time asking me if I'd like to come down and try out for their senior team. So I went over to Bulleen, played top age under 18s at Bulleen, and at that same year played in their WNBL team. I remember when I first went there, everyone said, "Oh, be careful going to Bulleen. They're not very financial. They're struggling." That was 1988. So it was always a group of dedicated volunteers, whether it be the coaches or the committee, that really worked hard to play us through. I stayed at home and finished my year 12 and went to university and started working as an accountant when I was, I think, about 21 and playing at the same time. Yeah, it's very different to, I think, what happens now. Most of us worked full-time. Rush to get out of the door at 5 o'clock to get to training by 6, get ready and get on the court. I remember I used to drive into the basket and did this funny little left-hand shot from the right-hand side. Building relationships, making friends makes it easy to stay around. And also, I guess, the progression of the league and the way things changed. It wasn't the same back in 1988 to what it was 12 years later. The professionalism of the league had grown quite a lot. When I first started, there was probably your parents were watching and a couple of others, and that was about it. And I think it was just a gradual progression over the years where membership started and more sponsors, and then you'd have people turning up wearing a Bulleen gear, which was nothing happened like that back in the late 80s, but gradually through the 90s that started to happen. So I'm proud that I did that back then, and from what it was back then, it continually evolves each year, and now it's even bigger. So to know that I was part of the change, yeah, proud of that.
Women with Drive.
Another great heritage piece, and we have a couple more of those to look forward to. But before I leave you tonight, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek of my chat with Boomers forward and tall fern, Penina Davidson. I will have the full interview on next week's show.
Yeah, it was some periods of like isolation, but I kind of knew what I was getting into, so it wasn't like it was a surprise that I couldn't get home. You know, if I'm not feeling painting that day, I can go dabble in some sewing. If I'm not feeling sewing, I can go dabble in something else. So these kids have a real opportunity to do something special, and I think it's up to us to kind of push them along that way if we can. I remember moments where professional players would talk to me when I was younger, and it just made me feel like, well, if they can do it, I can too. My first thing would be go for it. There's nothing to lose. Home's always going to be home. Go dive into the school books, 100%. Like, I wish I had done that more, because it was the difference between... And I love the school that I ended up going to, Cal Berkeley, but I didn't get into Stanford because my grades weren't good enough.
Well, that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Women with Drive. I will be here same time next week. Make sure to have a good night.